So for our third video, we're discussing the air around particularly indoor pools. So the air can contain sometimes these things called disinfection byproducts. So when you're around a swimming pool and they've added a lot of chlorine, or sometimes the normal amount of chlorine, but there's been a lot of dirt that's been tracked into the pool. There's a lot of people, more people, they sweat. All of that produces what are called disinfection byproducts. And that strong smell, it'll burn people's eyes. Sometimes it'll cause allergies or like allergy-like symptoms. But people who have asthma may actually have an asthma-related event because of it. And it's exacerbated by the fact that you're indoors and you have to pull that air out. Sometimes in the winter months when they'll do indoor swimming pool competitions and they're trying to conserve heat in the building, they may not have the air going out quick enough. And if they don't have the air going out quick enough and they're pumping in new cold air, which they might have to reheat, it's going to be expensive, that air that's not getting pulled out quick enough can get full of disinfection byproducts, particularly chloramines, but there are some other chlorine-related compounds that will bother a person. Just for an example, there's like 1,000 swimmers at some indoor pool. You know, they're competing over a period of like a whole day. And the competitors have breathing problems and headaches, red, watery eyes. And the CDC investigation showed that the exhaust fans had shut down on the first day. One of the athletes said that if you go into the pool for 10 minutes, it just kills you. Right now I can't breathe in deep because I know I'll cough. The guy missed his swimming time by 2 seconds. They fixed the exhaust fans for the second day. So when people are athletes and they're in the water, believe it or not, they're sweating in the pool water. And that sweat even interacts with the chlorine. And more chlorine might be needed to treat the water, but as the sweat interacts with the chlorine, it produces those chemicals. And we have to vent them chemicals out. Another example, 2,000 athletes across 11 days. The water quality, the chlorine levels were all right in the pool, but they had difficulty maintaining water quality in the practice pool. And the lifeguards were stationed on the deck and they monitored all the swimmers, and less than 10% of the competitors reported symptoms, but that's still a fairly significant amount of people. Less than 10% reported symptoms. That means like 90%, had something else. So let's talk about how we can also raise awareness. So we have chemical irritants that we should be aware of. So you can go to the CDC page to learn about them. Some ways that we can prevent all these disinfection byproducts, these chemicals getting in the air. If we're managing the pool, we should encourage good hygiene among swimmers before entering the pool. Not tracking in dirt, not tracking in, stuff off their skin into the pool. Also promote regular bathroom breaks. Urination in the pool will result in the promotion of these disinfection byproducts. The chlorine will interact with that and release these chemicals that can bother people. And if it's just one person here and there, not really a problem if it's a big pool. But if it's still a big pool and it's really crowded, we're going to have a lot of disinfection byproducts. And if you don't have disinfection byproducts being formed and you've got an extremely crowded pool, well, maybe you don't have any chlorine in the water. So all these things kind of relate to one another. So what can you do? Well, you should make sure that the chlorine, you can take action, that there should be chlorine in the water. We need at least 0.3, 0.4 parts per million chlorine. Some levels would even be higher in some states. But we need that chlorine to be there. We need especially free chlorine. It's not bound. That can kill. We also need the chlorine and pH levels. If the pH is out of control, the chlorine will not be as effective. And people that are at the pool should be mindful of these particular things. We can advocate to have the pools be well maintained and have good ventilation. If the ventilation's not good and people are having breathing problems, people should check on it. Is the air being pulled out of there? If you're worried about chlorine not doing a good job or creating chemical problems for people, there are alternative systems like ultraviolet radiation. The UV light will kill the microorganisms. And then periodically they can superchlorinate. So we should promote healthy pools. There are organizations that help do this. So I'll stop there on this. So The next section we're going to jump into is going to be on lakes, rivers, ponds, and oceans, so untreated waters. So the last question I got for you on this section here on the review is, what are DBPs and can they cause cancer? So what are DBPs and can they cause cancer? So DBPs as an acronym, those are disinfection byproducts. So those are the things that are produced through that interaction of whatever our disinfectant is, usually chlorine, interacting with stuff in the water. And then can they cause cancer? Well, disinfection byproducts that are of chlorine origin are carcinogens. They can cause cancer, so they increase a cancer risk. So we don't want a lot of exposure to them. So lifetime exposures of them do increase our cancer risk. All right, the next section we're going to jump into untreated water.